Dear students, I welcome you to this lecture. It is all about decision making in relation to problem solving. The main objectives of this lecture include understanding what are problems, to explain the various types of problems, to understand the problem solving cycle, linking decision making to problem solving, to understand the differences between decision making and problem solving. Problems. Almost all our day-to-day activities are directed towards a goal. Here it is important to know that problems are not always in the form of obstacles or hurdles that one faces. It could be any simple activity that we perform to reach a defined goal. For example, preparing a quick snack for our friend who has just arrived at our place. Much of what people do is to solve problems and make decisions. Often they are under the gun, stressed and very short for time. Consequently, when they encounter a new problem or decision, they react with a decision that seemed to work before. It is easy with this approach to get stuck in a circle of solving the same problem over and over again. Therefore, it is often useful to get used to an organized approach to problem solving and decision making. In everyday life, problem solving is inescapable. In fact, most of jobs require some kind of problem solving, whether we consider managers, auto mechanics, teachers, doctors, counselors, or some other occupation. An individual uses problem solving when he or she wants to reach a goal that is not readily available. Whenever there exists a gap between where an individual is and where he or she wants to be and don't know how to bridge the gap, they face a problem. There are several definitions of a problem and of problem solving. As per Dunker, a problem arises when a living creature has a goal but does not know how this goal is to be reached. Whenever one can not go from the given situation to the desired situation simply by action, then there is recourse to thinking. Such thinking has the task of devising some action which may mediate between the existing and the desired situations. According to this definition, a problem exists when there is an obstacle or a gap between where we are now and where we want to be. If no obstacle hinders progress toward a goal, attaining the goal is no problem. We are not faced with much of a problem when we can use learned behaviors to overcome or get around the blocked goal. In fact, some problems do not have a real block or obstacle. For example, multiplying 48 by 53 is not strictly speaking a problem because the solution involves using a learned procedure or algorithm. We know what we have to do to get the solution. It is only when we don't have a ready response or have to take some mediating action to attain a goal that we have a problem. A problem consists of three features. First, the original state. Second, the goal state. And the third one, that is the rules. Now let us discuss them one by one. As far as the original state is concerned, it describes the situation at the beginning of the problem. As far as the goal state is concerned, it is reached when the problem is solved, and as far as the rules are concerned, they describe the restrictions that must be followed in proceeding from the original state to the goal state. It is worthy to note that going from initial state to goal state can sometimes be very easy. However, Sometimes it can prove out to be a Herculean task depending on the nature and type of the problem. Let us throw some light on the various types of problems. Problems can be categorized according to their paths to a solution. Problems that have clear paths to solutions are termed as well-structured problems or well-defined problems. An example would be, how do you find the area of a parallelogram? Problems that lack clear paths to solutions are termed as ill-defined problems or ill-structured problems. For example, how do you decide on which house to buy if each of the potential houses in which you are interested has advantages and disadvantages? In the real world of problems, these two categories may represent a continuum of clarity in problem solving rather than two discrete classes with a clear boundary between the two. Well-structured problems. These problems have clear paths, if not necessarily easy paths to their solutions. In particular, the application of a formula in psychological research, cognitive psychologists might ask to solve a less content-specific kinds of well-structured problems. For example, cognitive psychologists often have studied a particular type of well-structured problem, the class of move problems, so termed because such problems require a series of moves to reach a final goal state. The most well-known of the move problems is one involving two antagonistic parties whom we call hobbits or ox. Three hobbits and three ox are on a river bank. The hobbits and ox need to cross over to the other side of the river. They have for this purpose a small rowboat that will hold just two people. There is one problem, however. If the number of ox on either river bank exceeds the number of hobbits on that bank, the ox will eat the hobbits on that bank. How can all six creatures get across the other side of the river in a way that guarantees they all will arrive there with the forest intact? To solve well-structured types of problems, people seem to make three main kinds of errors. These are, first, inadvertently moving backward. They revert to a state that is further from the end goal. For instance, moving all of the orcs and hobbits back to the first side of the river. Second, making illegal moves. They make an illegal move, that is, a move which is not permitted according to the terms of the problem. For example, a move that resulted in having more than two individuals in the boat would be illegal. Not realizing the nature of the next legal move, they become stuck. They do not know what to do next given the current stage of the problem. An example would be realizing that one orc or hobbit must be brought back across the river to its starting point before moving any of the remaining characters. One method for studying how to solve well-defined problems is to develop computer simulations. Here, the researcher's task is to create a computer program that can solve these problems by developing the instructions a computer must execute to solve problems. The researcher may better understand how humans solve similar kinds of problems according to one model of problem solving. The problem solver, which may be using human or artificial intelligence, must view the initial problem state and the goal state within a problem space, the universe of all possible actions that can be applied to solve a problem, given any constraints that apply to the solution of the problem. Ill-structured problems. The two-string problem is an example of an ill-structured problem. In fact, although we occasionally may misrepresent well-structured problems, we are much more likely to have difficulty representing ill-structured problems. By definition, ill-structured problems do not have well-defined problem spaces. Problem solvers have difficulty constructing appropriate mental representations for modeling these problems and their solutions. For such problems, much of the difficulty is in constructing a plan for sequentially following a series of steps that inch ever closer to their solution. In one study, both domain knowledge and justification skills proved to be important for solving both ill and well-structured problems. Justification skills are important because ill-structured problems can be represented in different ways and often have alternative solutions. Thus, problem solvers need to choose and justify their selection of a particular representation and solution. How people solve problems depends partly on how they understand the problem. The problem solving cycle. The problem solving cycle includes problem identification, problem definition, strategy formulation, organization of information, allocation of resources, monitoring and evaluation. We can rarely solve problems by following any one of optimal sequence of problem solving steps. We may go back and forth through the steps. We can change their order or even skip or add steps when it seems appropriate. The problem solving cycle includes many things like first it is problem identification. Then comes problem definition and representation. Third one, strategy formulation. Fourth, organization of information. Resource allocation, monitoring and evaluation. Now let us understand these concepts one by one. First, it is problem identification. Ask yourself what the problem is. There may be multiple issues within a single situation. Make a list of these issues and define why each one is a problem to you. Focus on behaviors rather than on yourself or a person. Incorrect example will be, the problem is that I am stupid. Correct example, the problem is that I easily allow others to betray or disappoint me because I trust people too quickly. Problem definition and representation. Here the problem is represented more appropriately so as to apply a relevant strategy. Strategy formulation. How can we solve the problem? The strategy may involve analysis, that is breaking down the whole of a complex problem into manageable elements. Instead, or perhaps in addition, it may involve the complementary process of synthesis, that is putting together various elements to arrange them into something meaningful or useful. Another pair of complementary strategies involves divergent and convergent thinking. In divergent thinking, we try to generate a diverse assortment of possible alternative solutions to a problem. Once we have considered a variety of possibilities, however, we must engage in convergent thinking to narrow down the multiple possibilities to converge on a single best answer. Then comes organization of information. Here we focus on how to do the various pieces of information in the problem fit together. Resource allocation. Here we focus on how much time, effort, money, etc. should be put into the problem. Studies have shown that expert problem solvers and better students tend to devote more of their mental resources to global, that is big picture planning as compared to novice problem solvers. Novices and poorer students tend to allocate more time to local detail-oriented planning than experts do. Then monitoring. As an action plan for a solution to a problem is being implemented, it is important to monitor its progress. Once the plan has been implemented, you need to evaluate the success of the solution. Monitoring the plan should not be confused with evaluating the solution. Monitoring the plan helps us to ensure that the solution is being implemented as expected. Evaluating the solution occurs after the plan has been implemented and provides an indication of whether the solution has rectified the problem. In order to monitor the plan, the following questions should be asked. Has each setup been implemented correctly? Has each setup been implemented on time? Has the expected outcome materialized from the completion of each setup? Based on the answers to the above questions, the following questions may need to be considered. Is more time required? Are more tasks required? Are more resources required? Was the plan realistic? What action needs to be taken? Does the plan need to change? Now comes evaluation. It is of tremendous importance. Once the solution has been implemented, its success needs to be evaluated. Evaluating the success of the solution allows the solution to be altered or changed as required. Regardless of its success or failure, evaluating the solution allows lessons to be learned that can be utilized when solving a similar problem in the future. When evaluating a solution, you need to answer the following questions. Where were we before the solution? Where are we now? Where are we meant to be? By answering these questions, you can identify if you have reached the desired state or not, progressed from the problem state or not, regressed from the problem state or not, remained in the problem state or not. Solutions can be short term or long term in achieving their outcomes. Therefore, the evaluation of a solution needs to be held at an appropriate time related to the expected outcomes. All these steps are important in understanding problems. It is to be mentioned that the emotions play an important role in implementing the problem solving cycle. People with high measured emotional intelligence, that is, the ability to identify emotions in others and regulate emotions in oneself, can positively influence problem solving. It may involve other decisions as when to cease information gathering process or deciding which information is more relevant and reliable. Now, students, let us focus on decision making in relation to problem solving. Learning motivation, decision making and executive intelligence involves problem solving in a variety of ways and on many levels. Problem solving and decision making are the tasks which an individual has to perform at intra and interpersonal level. In limited sense, problems are similar to games. In fact, games are set of problems. We invent them because we enjoy more than solving problems. In this limited sense, the skills of a problem solver, however, differ from those of a decision maker. As a problem solver, one has to be clever with analytical skills, well honed on many other problems in that particular field. By contrast, a decision maker needs a much wider range of skills and characteristics. Moving away from games, the problems we encounter in real life are mostly obstacles placed in front of us. problems as obstacles or difficulties in the path ahead of us are always secondary to the results of decision making. Decisions create problems. One way of solving them is to alter our decision or at least plan. If we stick with our decision, then we have to find a way of overcoming the problem. A single model is covering both decision making and problem solving. Unified model for decision making and problem solving. If we are trying to cross a mountain stream, we will jump from rock to rock, zigzagging our way to the far bank. This is an untidy but purposeful activity. But if we have to get a team across a metaphorical river, we need to be able to construct a simple bridge so that everyone knows where they are. To solve a problem and make a good decision, we have to follow certain steps. It needs specific skills because sometimes the phases merge into each other. The model is useful for team as well as for an individual. It can help everyone to keep in step. Asking the right question is the key skill both when we are thinking something through by ourselves and when we are leading or participating in a team. Questions are the spanners that unlock the mind. Here are the kind of questions we should ask to ourselves and others. For example, have you defined the problem or objective in your own words? Remember that a problem properly defined is a problem half solved. Are you clear about what you are trying to do? Where are you now and where do you want to get to? Have you checked all your main assumptions? Out of all the possible courses or solutions, have you identified a short list of the feasible ones? Has anyone else faced this problem? How did they solve it? Have you used all the available information? Are you clear about the manifest consequences? We should develop a 3-level competence. Awareness of problem or the need for decisions, either actual or potential. Understanding of where I and the team are in relation to the problem or decision, and does more work need to be done on analyzing information and defining the problem or decision. Skill in asking the right questions of the right people at the right time and being able to test the answers for their truth content. Action based on truth is much more likely to be effective than action based on a faulty perception of reality. Decision making and problem solving are core functions of management, and the ability to articulate and assess decisions to be made requires a highly motivated state. Combined with experiential learning and emotional and executive intelligence, we believe that an experiential approach will provide greater management participation and focused quantitative and qualitative problem solving and decision making. Problem solving and decision making are studied by many different disciplines, each of which seems to regard it as uniquely its own. Neuroscientists in Germany, Norway, and the US analyze the distinctive cerebral activity predicting our choices for future. These researchers state we learned from perception and important experiences to plan ahead and act on incomplete information. Sohn and his colleagues have shown that brain activity predicts up to 7 seconds ahead of time how a person is going to decide. Economists construct axiomatic models that describe market forces and their effects. Operation researchers model problems encountered in specific enterprises. Applied statisticians analyze data in order to describe the underlying system or infer characteristics of the system. And cognitive and applied psychologists examine the information processing tendencies of managers. We believe that managers who draw from all these approaches can make better decisions. Making decisions and solving problems sounds like hard work, but it is also great fun. It is what life is all about. There is nothing more satisfying than being faced with a mental challenge and overcoming it. The harder the problem, the more elation we and our team will feel when we overcome it. So, resolve to enjoy decision making and problem solving. The more we enjoy something, the more of it we will want to do, and the better at it we will get. Problem solving versus decision making. Consideration of the situation characterized by the absence of the problem is the crux of decision making. In other words, if you begin to think about what will the situation look like when the problem is solved, then you are into decision making. Hence, decision making and problem solving are almost very much integrated. Problem solving consists in looking at the potential causes of the problem. On the other hand, decision making consists in the method of approaching to resolve the problem. You will have to involve in brainstorm to find out solutions to the problem in decision making. Lateral and creative thinking is important in good decision making. Decision making, in short, can be called as the process of action plan. Action plan includes the calculation of the time needed to solve the problem. It also looks at the time needed for the implementation of the solution. It deals finally with the communication of the plan to all those involved in the implementation of the solution. Problem solving consists in jotting down the description of the various causes of the problem in terms of questions such as where, how, with whom, and why. Decision making is all about finding solutions to all these questions such as how, where, with whom, and why through the forming a plan that has to be implemented. Problem solving itself is an experience to be undergone in every corporate establishment. Decision making, on the other hand, is the consideration of what have you learned from problem solving. Hence, problem solving and decision making are integrated to a greater extent. To conclude, we can say that making decisions and solving problems are two very important areas in the life, and we should focus a lot to make fruitful decisions. Whether we are at home or at work, whatever we are doing and wherever we are, we face countless decisions and problems, both small and large, every day. Many decisions and problems are so small that we may not even notice them. Even small decisions, however, can be overwhelming to some people. They may come to halt as they consider their dilemma and try to decide what to do. Without getting so overwhelmed, we should go through a clear process. Why? By understanding the problem very well, collect information, whatsoever is necessary, know all the pros and cons of decision, and whatsoever decision is taking, it should be capable of being implemented, whether on a personal or organized level. Lastly, I would like to quote Carl Jung: all the greatest and most important problems in life are fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. This outgrowing proves a further investigation to require a new level of consciousness. Some higher or wider interest appeared on the horizon, and through this broadening of outlook, the insoluble lost its urgency. It was not solved logically in its own terms, but faded when confronted with a new and stronger life urge. With this, today's lecture comes to an end. Thanks for watching.